The first sign something was wrong wasn't the wreckage. It was the email. I was halfway through a quiet morning on the Marina, coffee in hand, gulls crying overhead, the water flat as glass, when my phone buzzed with a subject line that made me laugh out loud. HOA violation notice. Unauthorized docking. I almost deleted it. Almost. I'd owned the Marina for 7 years. Every slip, every piling, every inch of shoreline. The HOA existed inside the Marina boundaries because the developer who built the luxury condos needed access to water views. They leased, not owned. A technicality they loved to forget. Curious, I opened the email. Your vessel has been found in violation of HOA Regulation 14.3, unauthorized docking. Failure to remove said vessel within 24 hours will result in enforcement action. I looked up from my phone and out across the docks. My yacht, the Meridian, sat exactly where it had for the last 3 months. Polished hull, custom teak deck, flags snapping in the breeze. Moored in slip A1. My slip. I shook my head, smirking. Another HOA power play. Probably Karen from Unit 403 trying to remind everyone she chaired the Marine Compliance Subcommittee, a title she invented for herself. I typed a short reply. This Marina, including slip A1, is privately owned by me. Your HOA has no jurisdiction here. Please update your records.
Sent. Done.
I finished my coffee and headed home, already forgetting about it. That was my mistake. The call came the next morning. Sir, you might want to come down here, said Luis, my dockmaster. His voice was tight, too tight. There's been an incident. What kind of incident? I asked. A pause. Then, quietly, they brought equipment. I was in my truck in under 2 minutes. As I pulled into the Marina lot, I saw flashing amber lights, a flatbed crane, 2 bulldozers, and a group of people standing with clipboards, hard hats, and matching navy blue polo shirts embroidered with the HOA logo. My heart sank. Then I saw the debris. The Meridian was no longer a yacht. Its hull lay split like a cracked shell. Railings twisted. Windows shattered. The mast snapped clean in half. The teak deck, hand-finished over 6 months, was gouged and ripped apart like driftwood after a storm. For a moment, everything went quiet. I parked, stepped out, and walked forward slowly, as if moving too fast might make it real. Luis met me halfway. I tried to stop them, he said. I showed them the property maps. The deeds. They said they had authorization. From who? I asked. He swallowed. The HOA board. I stared at the wreckage. Years of work. Memories. Late nights planning routes. I hadn't even sailed yet. A woman in sunglasses and a pristine hard hat noticed me then. She walked over confidently, heels clicking on concrete like punctuation marks. Sir, she said briskly, this area is currently under enforcement action. You'll need to stand back. I looked at her. Calmly. Who authorized this demolition? She smiled the kind of smile that assumed obedience. The Harborview Estates Homeowners Association. Your vessel was docked without approval and posed a safety hazard. I gestured broadly. You mean my Marina? On my property. She flipped a page on her clipboard. Our documents indicate shared control of Marina access. Documents from whom? Our legal counsel. I nodded slowly. Did your legal counsel review the county deed records? Her smile faltered for half a second. Sir, if you have concerns, you can file an appeal. I took out my phone, pulled up a file, and turned the screen toward her. Here's the recorded deed, I said. Filed 12 years ago. Updated 7 years ago. This marina, land, water rights, slips, and access roads is owned solely by me. Your HOA has a revocable lease for pedestrian access only. The color drained from her face. Around us, workers had stopped moving. Luis stood very still. I leaned in just enough to keep my voice low. You didn't remove an unauthorized yacht, I said. You destroyed private property. On land you don't own. Without consent. She opened her mouth. I didn't let her speak. I hope your insurance is excellent, I said quietly. because this conversation is about to get very expensive. Behind us, the wind caught the torn flag from the meridian, snapping at once, sharp and final. And that was when I decided the HOA was about to learn exactly who really owned the marina. By the time the HOA crew realized they'd messed up, it was already too late. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I didn't even argue. I walked back to my truck, sat down, and made 3 phone calls. The first was to my attorney. "They demolished it," I said calmly. A pause. Then, completely? Down to splinters. Another pause, this one longer. "Don't say anything else to them. I'm on my way. Also, congratulations." That was when I knew just how badly the HOA had miscalculated. The second call was to the county records office. Within minutes, I had digital copies of everything. The original marina deed, the water rights allocation, the HOA's limited use lease, the clause that explicitly forbade structural enforcement actions by the HOA. Clause 9.7, the clause they never read. The third call was to my insurance provider. When I told the adjuster who destroyed the yacht and where, her tone changed instantly. "Sir," she said carefully, "this won't be a standard claim." "No," I replied, watching the HOA woman whisper urgently into her phone. "It won't." Back at the dock, the HOA representative, her name tag read Marilyn, compliance chair, was no longer smiling. A man in a suit had arrived. HOA lawyer, judging by the briefcase and nervous sweat. He stood a few feet from the wreckage, flipping through papers far too quickly. "Mr. Hale," he said, approaching me, "perhaps we can discuss this privately." I glanced around. Dock workers. Condo residents filming on their phones. A marina that had gone dead silent. "Nothing private about demolition," I said. "You brought bulldozers. We can talk right here." He cleared his throat. "There appears to have been a misunderstanding regarding jurisdiction." I raised an eyebrow. "A misunderstanding that cost 7 figures? Marilyn shot him a look. He swallowed. "We were informed the slip was under HOA authority." "By whom?" I asked. Neither of them answered. That told me everything. Luis handed me a tablet. "Security footage," he said quietly. The video showed it all. The HOA vote. The approval form. The demolition order, signed by Marilyn herself. No emergency. No safety risk. Just a line that read, "Owner non-compliant. Vessel removal authorized." I turned the tablet toward the lawyer. "You see this?" I asked. "This isn't an accident. This is deliberate." He adjusted his tie. "The HOA will, of course, accept responsibility." "No," I cut in. "You won't. Your insurance will. Your board members might. And, depending on how this unfolds, a few of you personally." Marilyn's face went pale. "You can't be serious." I met her eyes. "You destroyed property on land you don't own, based on authority you don't have, after being explicitly warned in writing." I tapped my phone. "That email? Time-stamped. Saved. Forwarded." Behind us, someone muttered, "She's done." An hour later, county officials arrived. 2 hours later, so did the harbor master. By sunset, the HOA equipment was gone. Their workers ordered off the property, and yellow tape ringed what used to be my yacht. As the lawyer packed up, he stopped beside me. "Off the record," he said quietly. "The board thought you were bluffing." I watched the water lap against the dock, calm and indifferent. "HOAs always do," I replied. He nodded grimly. "They won't again." But I knew better. They hadn't learned yet. They still thought this was about a boat. They had no idea what was coming next. The emergency HOA board meeting was scheduled for the next evening. They didn't invite me. That told me everything I needed to know. I found out about the meeting from Mrs. Calder in Unit 211, who had lived there since the condos were built and had quietly hated the HOA since day one. "They're panicking," she whispered over the phone. "Closed session. No residents. No minutes." I smiled. Perfect. My attorney, Rachel, met me at her office an hour later. She'd already built a timeline on the whiteboard. HOA notice sent. Owner responded with correction. HOA ignored response. Board vote held. Demolition ordered. A private property destroyed. She capped the marker and turned to me. This isn't a lawsuit, she said. This is a lesson. What kind? I asked. She slid a folder across the desk. Inside were the numbers. Replacement value of the yacht. Loss of use. Environmental damage from fuel and materials. Marina business interruption. Punitive damages for willful destruction. I exhaled slowly. They can't pay this, I said. Rachel nodded. That's the point. At 6:58 p.m., 2 minutes before the board meeting began, Rachel sent an email. Subject: formal notice of claim and demand to preserve evidence. Every board member. The HOA's insurer. Their law firm. The property management company. Read receipts, lit up one by one. At 7:01 p.m., the meeting abruptly recessed. By morning, the rumors were everywhere. The HOA's insurance had issued a reservation of rights letter. 2 board members had resigned overnight. The property management company was distancing itself. The demolition contractor had demanded indemnification. And Marilyn? Marilyn had stopped answering her phone. I went back to the Marina that afternoon. The wreckage was still there, taped off, waiting for forensic inspection. A reminder, not just of what they destroyed, but of what they'd started. Luis walked up beside me. You hear? He asked. Hear what? They tried to file a lien. I laughed. Actually laughed. On what? I asked. My yacht. The one they turned into firewood.
No, he said.
On the Marina. I turned slowly. They did what? Luis nodded. Emergency board action. Claiming unpaid fines and enforcement costs. I closed my eyes for a moment. Then I smiled. Good, I said. That makes this federal. By sunset, Rachel had confirmed it. Wrongful lien. Filed in bad faith. Against a property used in interstate commerce. The kind of mistake that doesn't just get reversed, it gets punished. Rachel called me that night.
They escalated, she said.
Which means we do too. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Next move? I asked. They want control, she replied. So, we show them how little they actually have. Outside, the Marina lights flickered on, reflecting across the water. The HOA thought they could bury the problem under paperwork. Instead, they just handed me the shovel. And this time, I wasn't digging up a boat. At exactly 6 a.m., my operations team arrived at the Marina with county-approved locksmiths, surveyors, and a deputy sheriff, not for force, just for documentation. By 6:17, every access gate that connected the condos to the Marina had new locks. By 6:22, fresh signage went up. Private Marina property. Access by leaseholders only. Trespassing enforced under county code.
Clean.
Legal. Unarguable. Luis watched it all with quiet satisfaction. You sure about this? He asked. I nodded. They tried to lien the property. Lease terms allow suspension during legal disputes. He grinned. Then this is going to get loud. It did. By 7 a.m., condo residents were gathered at the gates in robes, gym clothes, and business suits, phones out, voices raised. By 7:15, Marilyn reappeared. She looked different. No hard hat. No clipboard. Just panic poorly disguised as authority. You can't do this, she snapped, gripping the gate bars. Residents have rights. I stepped forward, calm as still water. They do, I said. Against the HOA. Not against me. She pointed at the docks. That's shared access. I handed her a laminated document. The lease. Highlighted.
Tabbed. Signed.
Clause 4.2. Access, contingent on compliance and good standing. Clause 11.1. Immediate suspension permitted during disputes involving property damage. Her hands trembled. This is retaliation, she said. No, I replied. This is risk management. The deputy cleared his throat. Ma'am, the property owner is within his rights. That was when the shouting started. Residents demanded answers. Board members blamed each other. Someone yelled, "You said he was bluffing." Marilyn didn't look at me anymore. By noon, The HOA's insurer called. Not to negotiate, to separate. They were reserving coverage for the demolition, denying coverage for the lien, and refusing to cover any damages stemming from continued board misconduct. In plain language, you're on your own. At 2:40 p.m., Rachel forwarded me another email. Subject: Immediate board vote, emergency assessment. They were trying to pass a special assessment. 7 figures. Per household. To save themselves. I shook my head slowly. They're going to riot, Louise said.
They already are, I replied.
That evening, the Marina was quiet again. No HOA patrols. No clipboard inspections. No imaginary authority. Just water, lights, and the sound of halyards tapping against masts. Rachel called once more. They're asking for mediation, she said. I watched the empty slip where the meridian had once been. Tell them, I said evenly. Mediation comes after accountability. A pause. And, I added, tell them not to touch anything else they don't own. Because the HOA had finally learned the truth. They weren't in charge anymore. They were exposed. And the storm they'd started? It was only beginning to make landfall. The HOA sent the notice at 8:03 a.m. They always did things early, as if waking people up with bad news somehow made it official. Emergency special assessment. Immediate action required. By 8:10, my phone was already ringing. Not from board members. From residents. They want how much? One man demanded, barely containing his anger. Is this because of the Marina? Another asked. A third didn't bother with politeness. What did the HOA do? I answered carefully. Truthfully. Calmly. The HOA destroyed private property, I said. They're now trying to make residents pay for it. That was all it took. By noon, the parking lot outside the HOA office was full. Residents stood in clusters, reading printed notices, comparing numbers, doing mental math that made their faces harden. 7 figures total. Split across fewer than 100 homes. Some people would lose savings. Others would miss mortgages. A few retirees looked like they might cry. And every single one of them had been told the same thing by the board. This is unavoidable. At 1:30 p.m., Rachel forwarded me a new document. An internal HOA email. Marilyn to the board, sent the night before. If we don't pass this assessment immediately, personal liability becomes a serious concern. I stared at that line for a long moment. Then I smiled. The town hall meeting that evening was supposed to be informational. It turned into a reckoning. Marilyn stood at the front of the room, hands shaking around the microphone. 2 remaining board members sat beside her, pale and silent. She cleared her throat. The assessment is necessary to protect the community. Protect it from you? Someone shouted. Applause. Another voice cut through the noise. You told us the Marina owner was lying. More applause. A woman in the front row stood up. Did you demolish his yacht after he told you that you had no authority? Marilyn hesitated. That hesitation was fatal. The room erupted. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. Rachel texted me updates in real time. Motion to suspend the board. Call for independent audit. Demand for board member resignations. A vote to retain separate counsel for residents. At 9:42 p.m., the final message came through. Marilyn removed as compliance chair. Board dissolved pending investigation. The next morning, I received an email, not from the HOA, but from a newly formed resident action committee. Subject: request for direct discussion.
Short.
Polite. Nervous. Rachel read it and nodded. They're trying to save themselves now. Good, I said. That means they're finally listening. I walked down to the marina just before sunset. The water was calm again, reflecting the sky in long streaks of orange and gold. Slip A1 sat empty, quiet, waiting. Luis joined me, hands in his pockets. So, he said, what happens next? I looked out over the slips. The docks. The property the HOA had treated like a toy. Next, I said, we separate the residents from the people who hurt them. He raised an eyebrow. And the HOA? I exhaled slowly. The HOA, I said, is about to learn the difference between power and responsibility. The wind picked up slightly, rippling the water. Somewhere behind us, a condo window slammed shut. The community was changing. And this time, it wasn't the HOA deciding how. The morning after the board was dissolved, the marina felt different. No bulldozers. No hard hats. No fake authority hovering over the docks. Just water, sunlight, and the faint smell of salt and teak. Luis met me at the office, holding a stack of papers. Lots of residents want to meet. Some want refunds, others just want answers. Good, I said. Let them ask. By mid-morning, the first residents arrived. Calm, curious, cautious. Not hostile, not afraid, just ready to see what actually went wrong. Rachel briefed me quietly. We'll need to organize these meetings carefully. Transparency first, but don't let them get distracted by the emotional wreckage. Focus on facts, authority, and restitution. I nodded. The yacht is gone.
Fine.
But they need to see the system restored and how to protect it. The first resident meeting took place in the Marina clubhouse. I started by showing the property deeds, lease agreements, and county documentation. Every resident got a copy, highlighted with key points. Questions came fast. Why did the HOA think they could demolish a yacht? Who was responsible for oversight? Can this happen again? I answered calmly, clearly, with facts, not threats. By the end of the meeting, something remarkable had happened. The residents were no longer angry at me. They were angry at the HOA. Next, we turned to the docks. The Meridian couldn't be replaced immediately, but the marina itself could be restored and improved. Luis and I walked every slip, checking for safety issues and damages from the demolition. We replaced railings, repaired docks, and installed new security cameras, transparent ones, so residents could monitor the property themselves. I wanted two things clear. The marina was mine, and it would stay mine. Any attempt to interfere with property or residents would be documented and challenged immediately. By the end of the week, the Resident Action Committee had formed a council to represent all condo owners in matters of shared spaces. Not to control the marina, but to ensure fair communication in the future. Marilyn and the old board? They were now subjects of multiple complaints, insurance claims, and the pending civil case. Standing on the dock at sunset, looking at the calm water where the Meridian once floated, I realized this wasn't just about a yacht. It was about authority, accountability, and respect for property. Luis nudged me. Think you'll get another yacht? I smiled. Maybe. But first, we rebuild more than a yacht. We rebuild trust. And that's worth more than any vessel. The sun dipped behind the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water. For the first time in weeks, everything felt right. Because the HOA had finally learned a hard truth. Power isn't given by a title or a clipboard. It's earned, respected, and legally backed. And in this marina, the lesson was clear. The Meridian may have been gone, but what it left behind was far stronger. Control, clarity, and a community that would never forget who really owned the water.